I'm Gillian Sue Reed, 30, the youngest in our Raleigh family. Last Sunday, we sat around my parents' dining table in North Hills, the usual spread of roast chicken and tension. I took a deep breath, said I was looking to buy a house. My parents burst out laughing. "You'll never own a house like your brother's." My mom scoffed, her voice dripping with disbelief. My dad leaned back, shaking his head. "Stick to your little fashion hobby, Gillian." My brother, always the golden child, smirked across the table. "She'll be broke forever," he said, his voice sharp, cutting through the clink of forks. The room felt smaller, their words heavier than the plates in front of us. I didn't argue, didn't snap back. I just smiled, my lips tight, holding a secret they'd never guess. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with their calls, panicked, confused. I didn't pick up. Instead, I texted 4 words: "Get off my property." They thought I was joking, but they'd learn soon enough. I'd spent years building something they couldn't imagine, and I was done letting them define me. What happened next? Stick around, you won't believe how it unfolded. Hey, have you ever been underestimated by your family? Drop a comment below, share your story, and hit that subscribe button to find out how I turned their laughter into silence. When I was a kid, the Reed family was a perfect picture. Growing up in Raleigh, North Carolina, our house was filled with laughter, the kind that spilled out during backyard barbecues or late-night board games. My parents, my brother, and I would pile into our old van for camping trips at Falls Lake, pitching tents under pine trees, roasting marshmallows, and telling ghost stories until we fell asleep to crickets chirping. My dad James, always the planner, mapped out every trail we'd hike, while my mom Diane made sure we had enough snacks to feed an army. My brother Logan, 4 years older, was my hero back then. He'd teach me how to skip rocks across the water or sneak me extra cookies when mom wasn't looking. Those were the days when we felt like a team, unbreakable, no matter what. By the time I hit high school, things shifted. My brother went off to college, aiming for law school, and my parents' eyes lit up every time they talked about him. "He's going to make something of himself," my dad would say, his voice brimming with pride. I was proud of him too at first, but when I told them I wanted to study fashion design, their faces fell. "That's a hobby, Gillian, not a career." My mom said, her tone sharp enough to sting. My dad just nodded, suggesting I consider business school instead. I brushed it off, thinking they'd come around once I proved myself. But they didn't. Every phone call home was about my brother's latest achievement, top grades, internships, then a fancy law firm job in Raleigh. He was their golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. I started pouring my heart into sketching dresses, staying up late to sew samples in my tiny dorm room. I'd send my parents pictures, hoping for a spark of excitement, but all I got were polite smiles and comments like, "That's nice, but what's your backup plan?" Meanwhile, my brother's graduation was treated like a national holiday. They threw him a huge party at our house, inviting half the neighborhood to celebrate his law degree. I was there clapping along, but inside I felt invisible. When I landed my first internship at a local boutique, I called home, eager to share. My mom cut me off mid-sentence. "Oh, Gillian, your brother just closed his first big case. Isn't that amazing?" I swallowed hard, muttering a quiet, "Yeah," before hanging up. As the years went on, their favoritism grew sharper. My brother bought a sleek condo in downtown Raleigh, and my parents couldn't stop bragging about it at every family gathering. They'd talk about his corner office, his tailored suits, his perfect life. I'd sit there picking at my food, my dreams of launching a fashion brand dismissed as childish. "Fashion's a tough industry," my dad would say, his voice heavy with doubt. "You should aim for something stable like your brother." I stopped arguing, stopped sharing. I'd nod, smile, and keep my plans to myself. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I barely told them anything about my life. I'd built a wall, not because I didn't love them, but because it hurt too much to be their afterthought. That distance became my shield as I moved out and threw myself into my work. I'd spend hours designing, building an online store, and connecting with clients who loved my vision. My parents didn't know, and I didn't care to tell them. Their world revolved around my brother's success, but I was carving out my own path. I wasn't their dreamer anymore. I was someone with a fire they'd never see coming. Every Sunday dinner at my parents' house was a silent battle. In their North Hills home, the dining room table was set with the same plates, but the air was thick with unspoken judgments. I'd drive over from my apartment in Raleigh, steeling myself for the same routine. My brother would lean back in his chair, his tailored suit a stark contrast to my jeans, and launch into stories about his latest courtroom victory or his new condo's rooftop deck. My parents would hang on his every word, their smiles wide, their eyes gleaming with pride. "That's our boy," my dad would say, clapping my brother on the shoulder. My mom would nod, adding, "You've always known how to make us proud." I'd sit across from them, pushing mashed potatoes around my plate, waiting for the inevitable shift. It always came. So Gillian, my mom, would start, her voice tinged with pity, still stitching those dresses. The word dresses sounded like a joke, as if my career in fashion design was a childish phase. I'd force a smile, muttering something about a new project, but my dad would cut in. "You should talk to your brother about real estate investments," he'd say. "He's got a good head for it." My brother would grin, not bothering to hide his amusement. "Fashion's cute, Gillian, but it's not exactly a gold mine," he'd quip, his tone dripping with condescension. The table would go quiet, their eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. I'd just shrug, keeping my thoughts locked tight. It wasn't just one dinner, it was every Sunday for the past year. My brother's life was a highlight reel: his firm's big cases, his weekend trips, his shiny new car. My parents ate it up, recounting his achievements to neighbors or friends on the phone. Meanwhile, my work was barely a footnote. Once I mentioned a design that got featured on a local fashion blog. My mom glanced up, said, "That's nice, dear," then turned to my brother. "Tell us more about that merger you worked on." I stopped bringing it up after that. Their dismissal stung, but it wasn't new. I'd learned to expect it, to let their words slide off me like rain on a window. What hurt more was how they framed it. "We just want you to be secure," my dad would say, his voice gentle but firm. "Your brother's set for life. You could be too if you picked something practical." Practical. That word haunted me. To them, my sketches and late-night sewing sessions were a distraction, not a career. My brother never missed a chance to pile on. "You're still chasing that artsy dream," he'd ask, his smirk sharper than a knife. I'd bite my lip, nod, and change the subject. I didn't want their pity or their advice. I wanted them to see me, but they never did. Those dinners pushed me further into my own world. I stopped sharing anything real. My latest designs, my growing client list, the hours I spent building my online brand. They didn't ask, and I didn't offer. Instead, I'd sit through their stories, my mind elsewhere, plotting my next steps. I wasn't just sewing dresses. I was building a future they couldn't imagine. Every snide comment, every comparison to my brother fueled my drive. I'd leave those dinners with a fire in my chest, determined to prove I was more than their dreamer. They thought they knew my limits, but I was already pushing past them. That fire kept me going even when their words cut deep. I wasn't ready to show my cards yet, but I knew my time was coming. While my family thought I was struggling, I'd built a fashion empire. In my small Raleigh apartment, I spent nights hunched over my laptop, sketching designs and coding an online store. What started as a side hustle selling handmade dresses on Etsy grew into something bigger than I'd ever dreamed. 2 years ago, I launched my own brand, GS Reed Designs, and it took off. My minimalist dresses and bold jackets caught the eye of influencers, then boutiques, then major retailers. By last year, my revenue hit 7 figures, with orders pouring in from New York to LA. I wasn't just sewing anymore. I was running a business that turned heads. The only person who knew the full scope was Daniel Mark Walsh, my best friend and business partner. Daniel, a marketing genius with a knack for numbers, joined me early on. We'd meet at coffee shops in Raleigh, mapping out strategies over lattes. "You're killing it, Gillian," he'd say, grinning as he showed me sales charts spiking upward. He handled the analytics while I focused on design, our late-night brainstorming sessions fueled by takeout and ambition. Daniel believed in me when my family didn't. When I told him about their snide comments, he'd shake his head. "They're clueless. Keep going." His faith kept me grounded, pushing me to dream bigger. With every milestone, a viral Instagram post, a feature in a fashion magazine, I felt a quiet thrill. But I never told my parents or my brother. Their dismissal had built a wall I wasn't ready to tear down. Instead, I let their doubts fuel me. Every time my mom called my work a hobby or my brother smirked about my artsy dreams, I'd go home and work harder. I wasn't proving myself to them anymore. I was proving it to myself. My success wasn't their business, it was mine, and I guarded it fiercely. Then I decided to make a move that would change everything. I wanted a house, not just any house, but one that screamed success right in North Hills where my family lived. I started browsing listings, my heart racing at the thought of owning something they'd never expect. I founded a $3 million modern home with floor-to-ceiling windows and a sleek design that matched my brand's aesthetic. It was bold, just like me. I contacted a real estate agent, keeping my plans under wraps. Daniel was the only one I let in on it. "You're really doing this?" he said, his voice a mix of awe and excitement. "This is your moment." The process wasn't easy. I spent weeks crunching numbers, meeting with bankers, and signing paperwork. My brand's revenue gave me the leverage I needed, but every step felt like a secret mission. I'd check my phone during breaks, scrolling through photos of the house, its open-concept living room, its sprawling deck. I imagined walking through it not as a guest, but as the owner. I didn't tell my parents or my brother a word. They'd laughed at my dreams for years. I wasn't giving them a chance to laugh at this one. Daniel kept me sane through it all. One night, over pizza at my apartment, he raised a glass. "To showing them what you're made of," he said. I clinked my glass against his, my mind already on the future. Buying this house wasn't just about a place to live, it was about claiming my worth, about standing tall in a world that tried to shrink me. I was ready to rewrite the story they'd told about me, one they'd never see coming. That house became my focus, my proof that I wasn't the failure they thought. I was building something they couldn't ignore. One recent Sunday dinner changed everything. I stepped into my parents' North Hills home, the dining room buzzing with more voices than usual. The table was crowded. My mom, my dad Logan, two of his lawyer friends from his firm, Sarah Jane Mitchell, and Michael Edward Lee, and a couple of neighbors who'd stopped by. The air was thick with chatter, plates piled high with roast chicken and cornbread. Logan, in his usual polished suit, held court, charming everyone with stories of his latest courtroom win. My mom beamed, passing dishes, while my dad nodded along, proud as ever. I slid into a seat, my pulse quick, knowing I'd bring up the house tonight. As dessert was served, pecan pie, my mom's specialty, I saw my chance. "I'm thinking about buying a house," I said loud enough for the table to hear. The room stilled, heads turning my way. My mom's fork froze midair, her eyes narrowing. "You'll never own a house like your brother," she said, her voice sharp, a laugh escaping her lips. The neighbors shifted uncomfortably, but Logan leaned back, smirking. "She'll be broke forever," he said, his tone cutting, drawing chuckles from Sarah and Michael. My dad shook his head, adding, "Gillian, houses around here cost millions. Be practical." The table watched me, waiting for me to crumble. "Logan, I'm not joking," I said, my voice steady, locking eyes with him. His smirk didn't waver. "Come on, Gillian, stick to your little fashion thing," he said, his words dripping with condescension. The neighbors exchanged glances, and Sarah stifled a giggle. My mom chimed in. "We're just looking out for you, dear. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew." The weight of their words, amplified by the crowd, pressed down on me. I could have spilled everything: my brand, the millions, the house I was close to buying. But I didn't argue, just smiled my lips tight, hiding a fire they'd never see. The conversation moved on Logan's friends praising his new condo, my parents soaking it up. I sat there, my pie untouched, their laughter echoing in my head. You'll never. Broke forever. Practical. Each word was a jab, but I let them think they'd won. The room felt too small, the eyes of strangers too heavy. I wasn't here to prove myself to them, not yet. I pushed my chair back, standing abruptly. I've got work to finish, I said, grabbing my jacket. My mom frowned. So soon, she asked. I nodded, avoiding Logan's smug grin and the curious stares of his friends. As I walked out, my heels clicking against the floor, I felt their eyes on my back. She's always been a dreamer, my dad said to the neighbors, his voice low but clear. I didn't turn around. In my car, I gripped the wheel, my mind racing. That $3 million house wasn't just a plan, it was real, and I was days away from signing the papers. Their laughter, Logan's smirk, the pity in my mom's voice. It all fueled me. I didn't need their belief. I had my own, and it was stronger than they'd ever know. As I drove off, I felt a steady resolve settle in me. I would keep pushing forward. 2 weeks after that humiliating dinner, I held the keys to my new North Hills home in my hand. The $3 million mansion was mine, modern with floor-to-ceiling glass walls that caught the Raleigh sunrise. Standing in the empty living room, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood, I felt a surge of triumph. My real estate agent had pushed the paperwork through, and now it was real. I wasn't the dreamer my family mocked. I was the owner of a home that outshone my brother's condo. This wasn't just a house, it was proof of my success, and I was ready to show it off at a real housewarming party, not to hide my victory, but to let my family see what I'd built. To make the house my own, I hired Patricia Ann Brooks, Raleigh's top interior designer. Patricia walked through the space with me, her sharp eye catching every detail. "This house is your brand in physical form," she said, sketching ideas for the open-concept kitchen where I wanted a marble island. We spent days choosing velvet sofas, bold abstract art, and a statement chandelier to anchor the dining room. Every piece reflected G.S. Reed. Design's clean lines, fearless elegance. Patricia's suggestions, like textured curtains to soften the glass walls, brought it all together. "This is your moment to shine," she said, and I nodded, picturing my family's faces when they saw it. The house was my answer to years of their doubt. I could still hear my mom's sharp, "You'll never own a house like your brother," and Logan's cutting, "She'll be broke forever," from that dinner. Those words had burned, but they'd fueled me to this point. Now I wanted them to walk into my world and face the truth. I planned a real housewarming party, not a subtle trick, but a bold celebration of my success. I'd invite my parents, Logan, and my closest allies to witness it. Their shock would be my reward, not their apologies. My best friend, Linda Marie Parker, was all in. Over coffee at a downtown Raleigh cafe, I shared my plan. "You're going to make their jaws drop," Linda said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She'd cheered my fashion brand's rise from the start, unlike my family. "This isn't just a party, Gillian," she said, leaning forward. "It's you claiming your place. Show them what you've done." Her words hit home. This was about standing tall, proving my worth after years of being dismissed. Linda helped me plan every detail. We ordered gourmet catering, shrimp skewers and stuffed mushrooms, a far cry from my mom's pot roast. I picked a smooth jazz playlist to set a sophisticated tone, nothing like the noisy dinners at my parents' house. The invitations, sleek and minimalist, went out to my parents, Logan, and friends from my fashion world, including Daniel. They read, "Join me to celebrate my new home." I didn't hide that it was mine. I wanted them to come expecting my success, only to be stunned by its scale. Linda grinned as we finalized the guest list. "They're walking into a wake-up call," she said, and I laughed, a spark of confidence igniting. As the party date approached, Patricia's team transformed the house. They arranged furniture, hung art, and set up a bar in the corner. I ran my fingers over the marble countertops, imagining my mom's stunned silence. Logan's smirk fading. Daniel stopped by, his grin wide. "This is you, Gillian Unstoppable," he said. I nodded, my resolve firm. This housewarming wasn't just a celebration, it was my declaration. I was ready to show my family who I'd become, and they'd see it with their own eyes. The night of the housewarming, my North Hills mansion was alive with elegance. Velvet sofas glowed under the soft chandelier light. The marble island sparkled, and the scent of gourmet shrimp skewers and stuffed mushrooms filled the air. Friends from G.S. Reed Designs mingled with Raleigh's top designers, their laughter blending with smooth jazz. Linda caught my eye across the room, her nod radiating pride. I wore a custom black dress, its sharp lines echoing my brand's aesthetic, feeling every bit the homeowner. My phone had buzzed all day with voicemails from my mom and Logan, confused by the invitation to celebrate my new home. "Gillian, are you working for someone big?" my mom asked, her voice uncertain. Logan's tone dripped with his usual arrogance. "What's this, sis? Hosting for some hotshot?" I didn't reply, letting their doubts simmer. They'd see the truth soon enough. When the doorbell rang, my heart raced. My parents and Logan stepped inside, their eyes wide, scanning the sleek space with suspicion. My mom clutched her purse, her brow furrowed. "Gillian, who owns this place?" she asked, her voice cautious. My dad's gaze darted to the high ceilings, his expression skeptical. "You're involved with someone wealthy, aren't you?" he said, more statement than question. Logan, in his polished suit, smirked. "Nice gig, Gillian. Working for a tycoon suits you." He quipped, his condescension sharp. The other guests glanced over, curious, but I stayed calm, offering them wine and letting their assumptions hang. They sipped, marveling at the decor, oblivious to the bombshell waiting. The evening built to its peak, and I stepped onto the staircase, tapping my glass for silence. The room hushed, all eyes on me. "Thank you for coming to celebrate my new home," I said, my voice clear and steady. My parents exchanged uneasy glances, Logan's smirk still lingering. I took a deep breath. "This isn't someone else's house. It's mine. I bought it, $3 million paid in full." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but my family froze. My mom's hand trembled, her wineglass tilting. My dad's face hardened, his jaw tight. Logan's smirk vanished, his eyes blank. "You're kidding," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "How, Gillian?" my mom stammered, her tone cracking. "Your little fashion hobby?" I stood tall, unflinching. "My brand, G.S. Reed Designs, built this. My work, my success." Each word sliced through years of their doubt, a release I'd waited for. My dad tried to speak, his voice faltering. "We didn't know you could—" He trailed off. Logan forced a chuckle, stepping closer. "Come on, we didn't mean all that," he said, his confidence crumbling. My mom nodded hastily. "We're so proud, dear," she said, her words empty. I met their eyes, then smiled. "Let's eat," I said, gesturing to the catered spread. They hesitated, their unease palpable, but joined the guests, eating in strained silence. The night carried on, laughter and clinking glasses echoing. My parents and Logan stayed, making awkward small talk, their earlier bravado gone. Linda leaned in, whispering, "You've shaken them to the core." I nodded, savoring the moment but staying focused on my guests. Their hollow apologies didn't matter yet. Showing them my truth was enough for now. 2 weeks later, my doorbell rang. My parents and Logan stood on my porch. Faces tense. My mom spoke first, her voice low. "Gillian, we need your help," she said. "Logan's tech startup investment failed. We backed him, and now we're in trouble." Logan avoided my gaze, muttering, "It's bad." My dad nodded, his usual assurance gone. "You're doing well, Gillian. Maybe you could—" I cut them off, my voice calm but firm. "Get off my property." The words landed sharp and final. Their eyes widened, stunned. "Gillian, please." My mom pleaded, her hands shaking. We're family. I shook my head. You didn't see me as family when you mocked my dreams, I said. You made your choices. Now live with them. I closed the door, their silhouettes fading behind the glass. Linda's words rang in my mind. Show them what you've done. I had, and there was no going back. After shutting the door on my family, I turned my back on their calls and texts, letting silence replace their voices. That moment telling them to get off my property wasn't just about their plea for help, it was about reclaiming my worth after years of their doubt. I'd shown them my truth at the housewarming party, and their desperate attempt to lean on me only confirmed they'd never seen me. My focus shifted to what mattered: my fashion empire, GS, Reed Designs, and the people who believed in me. My brand was soaring. A new collection launched days after the party, selling out in hours. Retailers from Chicago to Miami clamored for partnerships, and I poured my heart into designs that felt like extensions of myself. Every stitch, every sale was proof I'd built something real, something my family couldn't dismiss. I worked late into the night sketching in my North Hills home, its quiet spaces a sanctuary from their judgment. My success wasn't just a business, it was my defiance, my answer to every "you'll never" they'd thrown at me. In Raleigh, my family's world unraveled. Logan's failed tech startup investment, the one they'd begged me to bail out, cost him his sleek downtown condo. He had to sell it at a loss, his name no longer a badge of pride at his law firm. Colleagues whispered about his reckless gamble, and his once shiny reputation faded at social gatherings. My parents, who'd staked their pride on his success, faced a colder reality. The story of my housewarming party had spread through North Hills, carried by neighbors and friends who'd been there. They laughed at Gillian's dreams, people murmured at community events, and now look at them. Their boasts about Logan turned to awkward silences, their standing in Raleigh's tight-knit circles tarnished by their own misjudgment. I didn't gloat. Their downfall wasn't my goal. It was just the consequence of their blindness. I'd spent years craving their approval, but now I saw it for what it was, a weight I no longer needed to carry. My parents' calls dwindled, their messages tinged with regret they'd never voice fully. Logan sent one text, a half-hearted "we didn't know," but I left it unanswered. Their words couldn't undo the years of dismissal, the dinners where my dreams were a punchline. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. My real strength came from those who saw me all along. Daniel, my business partner, was my rock. We'd sit in my living room poring over sales data, his laughter filling the space as he showed me new milestones. "You're a force, Gillian," he said one evening, his eyes bright with admiration. Linda, my best friend, was my spark. Over brunch at a Raleigh cafe, she leaned across the table, her voice warm. "You didn't just prove them wrong, you built a life they can't touch," she said. Their belief wrapped around me stronger than any family tie I'd lost. We celebrated late into the night, toasting to new designs and bigger dreams, my home alive with their support. Looking back, I saw how their doubt had shaped me. Every smirk from Logan, every pitying glance from my mom, every be practical from my dad, they'd pushed me to prove I was more. But I wasn't proving myself to them anymore. I'd built my empire, my home, my happiness, not to spite them, but to honor myself. Their skepticism had been a fire, and I'd forged my strength in it. I didn't need their praise or their regret. My worth came from my work, my choices, and the friends who stood by me. To anyone reading this, let my story be a reminder. Your value isn't defined by those who underestimate you. It's in your resilience, the paths you carve, the people who lift you up. My family thought they knew my limits, but I showed them I had none. They paid the price for their doubt, a fractured legacy, a humbled pride. I paid mine too, in years of hurt, but I gained a life built on truth. That's the power of knowing who you are, and I'll carry it forward unburdened by their shadows.